From the precision weapons in modern war to the aerial ballet of a dogfight, the gun camera has been a tool of reconnaissance and tactics since the dawn of flight and mechanized warfare. Climb into the cockpit as gun camera footage from nearly a century of war is analyzed, sometimes down to the frame, by a team of experts and the men who lived it. Witness the precision and pinpoint accuracy of smart bombs. Chase down a jet fighter over Europe. Hang on as helicopter gunners suppress the enemy. And ride along as warplanes tangle with bombers in a quest for air superiority. Air superiority is a critical objective in winning wars. To command the skies, the battle is often brought to the enemy's own airfields. Here, opposing air power can be decimated before planes even leave the ground. And precision-guided munitions make it look like a video game. Marine Major John Passant has done the dance. As an Airborne Forward Air Controller, or FAC-A, during Operation Iraqi Freedom, he coordinated numerous coalition attacks on the enemy and even guided in a bunch of his own PGMs.
Everybody breaks out their tapes after the flight. You'll bring all that stuff into the debrief. Suppose everybody kind of bears their soul and says, hey, this was a good pass, or this wasn't, or this is a valid shot, this one wasn't a valid shot.
In modern wars, attacking an airfield such as this one in Iraq is a team effort. Flying an F-18 Hornet with 8 weapons stations for missiles or fuel tanks and a 6-barrel 20mm rotary cannon, the pilot coordinates carefully with his wingman as they move in for the kill.
I think what you're seeing here is 2 aircraft attacking. You're going to see one impact here. You're going to see another impact up here to the north. Different laser codes able to deconflicted that so the bombs don't end up going off onto the other guy's target. Pretty well near simultaneous.
Using this next series of clips, we can piece together the actual history of a bombing run. Here, a pilot and his wingman systematically destroy 4 HAZs, or hardened aircraft shelters.
These are aircraft HAZs, hardened aircraft shelters, huge hangars that are hardened, concrete over the top.
Each subsequent clip shows the remnants of the previous hit, in close proximity to the next hardened aircraft shelter being targeted.
These splashes you see may be impacts of the remnants of this HAZ on the other side. If you back it up, I think you're going to see a HAZ explode here on the left side. When it blows up, this is the fallout from that shelter. That's how far it's throwing the concrete. See all the way down to there. In my opinion, the HAZs just stand out so much. It's tough to camouflage them. It's tough to keep them from getting blown up. If you're going to lose your aircraft, it's probably easier just to fight us in the air.
Pilots targeting hardened aircraft shelters employ special munitions with time delay fuses to allow the PGM to pass through the roof of the shelter and explode once it gets inside.
Multiple weapon impacts and you just see it go out the doors. That's a pretty good example.
Look at that clip again. The explosion inside the bunker has no place to go but out, bursting through the doors and windows. The goal of every weapons launch is to get the round on target, known as the desired mean point of impact, or DIMPI.
You can't be sure that that's actually on your assigned DIMPI, and it can get kind of tough. No, yeah, again, those 2 weapons impacts, they hit the middle of where he was lasing, but you can't be sure that what he was lasing was on top of the target he wanted. So There's another example. Here's the wingman's going off, and here's his own. So you'd want your impacts to happen like within a second of each other or within 2 seconds of each other, or you would want to make like a reattack like a minute later.
Another limitation of this technology involves the actual location of the gun camera. It is placed under the nose of the jet in a camera pod. In this next clip, the pilot is fast approaching his target, but as the aircraft rolls, the pod no longer has line of sight with the point of impact.
The aircraft can be doing a lot of different things when your pod is basically stabilized, pointing at a designation. You obviously can't roll the aircraft upside down and have the FLIR still pointing at it, so there's a limit to your field of regard. All I can know is that the video is rolling, so he's probably rolling into some sort of delivery, releasing the weapon. His Wizzo's telling me, I've still got it, I've still got it. In other words, you've got a good designation you can release off it. The pilot will release the weapon, come off. The Wizzo, in this case, I think, is probably continuing to track the target.
The pilot is carefully coordinating his flying with his partner, tracking the targets from the back seat, his Wizzo.
More clean there. UHB.
There's an example of the blanking I was talking about. He's hit the limit of his field of regard.
Another look at that clip reveals that the Wizzo did shoot a missile that missed. You can see this small explosion just under the plane. It will take a second pass to destroy this target. While modern warfare relies heavily on gun cameras to target weapons, half a century earlier, pilots used ailerons and a rudder to aim their guns. And they had to be a lot closer to their targets. F-6F Hellcat pilot Lieutenant J.G. Bill Davis joins historian Doug Keeney to reveal the tactics he employs to win air superiority in the Pacific Theater.
We did an awful lot of attacks on airfields. The first thing we did when we hit any new island was try to wipe out all the planes on the airfield so they wouldn't come back and bomb the fleet that night. The Japanese could see us coming from quite a distance. There was always a question as to how good their radar was. Sometimes we'd hit a new island for the first time and they obviously were still in bed.
Approaching low over an airfield made you a target for the Japanese guns.
A lot of tricks to this. The safest thing is to come in steep, but it doesn't give you that much time. To come in as low as he is in this run here, the anti-aircraft fire at these fields was just phenomenal.
In this clip, you can see tracers from deadly anti-aircraft fire, known as AAA, coming up towards the plane. Taking a closer look, we tried to determine the exact placement of that anti-aircraft gun. AAA appears to emanate from just to the side of the plane in an attempt to defend it from an aerial attack. And remember, there are 5 to 10 bullets to every orange tracer.
They knew where you were going, you picked out a target, and they could just lay the fire out in front of you.
So you had a good angle flying a low 20-foot off the ground at the most pass.
That's right.
I mean, you were really, as they will say today, bunny sucking. You are low to the ground, 10, 15 feet off. You've got a good angle on the target.
Check it out again. The pilot targets a Mitsubishi 96 Nell, a Japanese heavy bomber that explodes in a fireball. It also appears that the Japanese tried to hide the plane with camouflage netting. Breaking up the plane outline with camo netting might hide it from high-altitude bombers, but not at close range.
The other thing is you're so low that if you do get hit by anti-aircraft fire, you're not high enough to bail out. Of course, in the case of Japanese, it didn't make an awful lot of difference if they got a hold of you.
Since guns are fixed in aircraft wings, the plane becomes the gun turret. A pilot has to use his rudders to aim the machine guns. Here, an Allied pilot etches a U to take out a German Me-210 bomber, a higher value target. Notice that he bypasses the Dora 9 fighter here to destroy the Me-210. Then, after etching the U, the pilot pulls up. Not enough altitude to strafe the biplane or the Me-109 here at the end of the runway. Strategies have evolved from simple basic gun runs to highly coordinated, team-oriented tactics. Each scenario provides unique challenges to the pilots and gunners as they fight for air superiority. Bullets fly and fuel tanks explode when fighter pilots engage in aerial combat for air superiority. Before claiming control of the battlefield, you have to control the skies. Air superiority requires planes, speed, and firepower. But one of the most important tools in the air war never killed anyone. And many of our most sophisticated weaponry would be lost without it. The gun camera really got off the ground during World War II.
Most of us think of gun camera footage as footage that's showing us an air-to-air engagement, a dogfight, the hairball when two planes get close to what we call the merge, where they're within a mile of each other, the cameras go on.
Sometimes aerial battles are swift and immediate as a single bullet ruptures a fuel tank. Other times, the enemy plays a game of chicken, here flying straight into a hail of bullets, deflecting just before the head-on collision.
Well, what you're looking at on that pass when the two planes are coming together is called the merge. And as that German aircraft is coming toward our American aircraft, what he's actually flying into is a rainstorm of bullets, a hailstorm of bullets. And we see them as they get closer. We see the impacts and ultimately the wing disintegrating. It's a classic tail chase.
Yes, and getting very low.
With bullets flying, the pilot matches the target plane in a sweeping right turn. A steady trail of smoke indicates that the plane may be in trouble.
One of the problems, you get too low, you can't bail out safely. You won't have time for your chute to open.
But in this case, the pilot punches out.
There goes the pilot out. No chute yet. It doesn't mean it won't happen. Usually the chute's pretty fast.
The gun camera continued to run for 5 seconds after you stopped firing to try to get a plane that you really had hit and hadn't blown up yet, that you'd have a visual proof of the kill.
In this next series of clips, a P-51 Mustang with 6 machine guns goes after a German Me-109 with 2 machine guns. When the plane is riddled by gunfire, the German pilot punches out.
And here we have a pretty good bailout sequence. It's kind of classic bailout in the sense that the aircraft is inverting. The pilot simply uses gravity to egress from the aircraft. No ejection seats during World War II, drop out or climb out.
With guns blazing, pilots scramble to gain any advantage. Here, a P-47 Thunderbolt with 8 machine guns attacks a German Me-109. We join the battle as the P-47 moves in behind the German plane.
This is dangerously close if the plane blows up. He's within 30 or 40 feet of that plane. Still firing, partially because he wants to confirm the kill.
The camera is so close that you can clearly read the markings on this plane, a German cross.
I mean, these crazy angles show that just the relentless pursuit. It's the nature of air-to-air combat. I mean, when you're on a target, you'll invert, you'll dive to the deck, you'll stay on them.
That's right. And you actually won't even be aware yourself that perhaps you're upside down. You're so intent on nailing the enemy. He's staying on him.
There you see a lot of lead going through the air. Here we're flying him right into the ground.
Look at the bullets catching up with him to the right, but he's off in the direction.
And he's chased him down to the deck, and now we see him stitching the ground to the right of the enemy aircraft. And even though he's missing, it gives you a sense of just how much lead is pouring out. You know, it's 720 rounds per minute, which is a Browning 50 cal machine gun. The math is pretty simple. You're putting 70 rounds of lead in the air every second.
No question about the results here. The camera pulls up, and we assume the Me-109 is completely destroyed. Once you have the enemy in your sights, as in this next clip, you just stay with him and trigger your guns.
This is an interesting 5 or 6 shots. A long tail chase, a lot of cuts, a lot of 2-3 second bursts, very classic.
Right?
We're staying on the enemy aircraft, following him through the banks. Each time we see that little jump, that's another burst going.
That's right. You don't want to just press the trigger and keep following the plane. You'll be out of ammunition, or you may even burn out your gun barrels.
So those hits on that left wing root, any of those hits can be with some sort of armor-piercing shell, can sever a hydraulic line, and you'll see it with gear dropping. Here you see the right landing gear is dropped.
A bit difficult to see here. This hydraulic problem is evident in several other gun camera clips. In each case, a well-placed bullet disables the hydraulic controls and the landing gear flops down in flight. The pilot will soon lose control of the plane. In this 2-clip sequence, a P-47 Thunderbolt targets a Focke-Wulf FW-190D, known as a Dora 9 with 2 machine guns. This shaky camera tells us that guns are blazing. As the planes invert, our ace scores a few hits. These final frames record a desperate escape.
Here the pilot's trying to get out. Either on a parachute harness or a safety belt.
Air superiority comes down to nerves of steel, agile gun platform, and sometimes a lucky shot. Up next, rare color footage from the Pacific Theater documents frantic dogfights against Japanese planes for mastery of the skies. And modern air combat evolves with higher speeds and new technologies. Aerial battles between flying gun platforms provide fascinating insights into the battle for air superiority. The tail chase, a twisting left turn, diving to the deck, and a final burst of flame, all part of a classic dogfight. Near the end of World War II, pilots begin using color film to record their aerial encounters. In the Pacific Theater, American fighters flying P-51 Mustangs engage attacking Japanese pilots.
Here's the 2-ship, looks like a Japanese 2-ship, and a well-placed round, and you've got the fuel tank igniting.
I think we had a bailout.
Yep, chute kind of delays, and then it blossoms pretty clearly after it clears the tail.
Take a closer look. The plane is a Japanese fighter, not a 2-seater, and only one man bails out. The blossoming chute is connected to an object too small to be a pilot. It looks more like the harness. Look again. It appears that the force of the deploying chute ripped the harness right from the unlucky pilot, here, leaving him hurtling to a certain death. There is also a limited amount of color footage shot in Europe. In this clip, a P-47 Thunderbolt begins a tail chase. The tracers illuminate a wide arc as the German plane sweeps to the right. Suddenly, a second plane enters from below. It is a P-51 Mustang directly in the line of fire. Despite this interference, the American pilot moves in dangerously close. When the German plane is seen again, he is skimming the ground.
Very common to dive for the deck, hide in the visual clutter of the ground when someone's on your tail.
The chase continues relentlessly as the twisting plane tries to lose his pursuer. The gun camera has only one setting for exposure. When the light changes, the camera doesn't adjust. The result? Light scenes and dark scenes like this one. In this final moment, the gun camera records something falling from the plane. A large piece of the wing, or perhaps a desperate pilot. The footage doesn't provide a definite answer. This next clip documents a rare encounter with a German Me-262, the first operational jet fighter used in combat. Even though it boasted a maximum speed of 540 miles per hour, it couldn't outrun a 50 caliber bullet.
If this is from a P-51, I'm surprised it's able to keep up with this Me-262.
You know, the jet age came during World War II, and it's not as well known by most, but there were a considerable number of German jets that were deployed and fought in combat.
The tracers arc as the pilot tries to fire in front of the fighter. This particular jet is in trouble. An ambitious fighter stays on his tail and continues to send out a volley of lead. These flashes indicate hits on the wing and fuselage. The jet vainly tries to outrun his pursuer. Smoke from the engine now shows that the plane is in serious trouble. The outcome is inevitable. As shown in the next clip from the same camera reel, another confirmed kill. These next clips take us to 1953 and the Korean War. Dogfights were now taking place between jets. The Soviet MiG-15 cruising at speeds of 550 miles per hour, and the American F-86 armed with 350 caliber machine guns with speeds of 625 miles per hour. The F-86 had a 15-to-1 kill ratio over the Soviet MiG. Although fighting just 5 years after World War II, the airspeeds have accelerated tremendously. World War II pilot and Korean War veteran John Oliphant comments on this next series of shots. The gun camera shows us high-altitude tracers making sweeping slashes across the sky.
You couldn't even shoot a guy that far away in World War II.
A puff of smoke indicates that the MiG is hit and damaged. In a moment, the pilot is seen.
The silk letdown.
You always try to take a shoot to get your confirmation that you made a kill.
In this next encounter, an F-86 again chases a MiG. The shaky camera in the third clip tells us the pilot is firing his guns. In this moment, the pilot finds two jets, a fighter and his wingman. It is important to select and focus on just one target. As the chase continues, the gun camera records 4 different contrails, but the pilot doggedly stays with his target. The smoking plane and a steep dive indicates this MiG is in trouble. A blossoming chute confirms the kill, and perhaps an out-of-control plane.
It's really sort of striking that this is the first air-to-air jet dogfighting. This is a little peephole into history. We're seeing a lot of lead in the air as our sabers go up on the tails of these MiGs.
Whether powered by jets or pistons, these dogfights take pilots to the brink, as life and death hang in the balance. Evasion, brutal attack, or sheer bravado in a head-on game of chicken can mean the difference of survival or death. Up next, unofficial gun cameras carried by Huey pilots in Vietnam give us an insider's view of rocket attacks, miniguns, and suppressive fire. Our superiority in today's digital battlefield is secured by modern all-weather night-fighting aircraft, such as the Army's Apache. Chief Warrant Officer Vic Brimmer flew a Huey helicopter in Vietnam.
In today's world, it's really a nighttime war. All of our helicopters are equipped with blue lighting on the instrument panels so that we can use night vision goggles. Some of them have FLIR, forward-looking infrared, so that they can see in the dark. And that's the plan for almost all of our flying now, is night flying to keep us out of that danger zone.
It wasn't always like this, however. Although gun cameras had been around for years before American troops arrived in Vietnam, the military had no plans to equip helicopters with gun cameras. This unofficial 8mm footage showed military planners the strategic need for gun cameras on helicopters in future wars. The UH-1 Huey is an all-purpose troop transport and medevac helicopter.
We started in UH-1D models, Deltas, and moved up to H model Hueys, and we're still flying that same machine 36 years later. We used quite a bit of footage that the Army had taken from various experiences in our early training stages, but there was almost no helicopter gun footage.
Given the initial design and role of the Huey, a camera system was considered unnecessary in an aircraft that could spare little extra weight. This didn't stop Huey pilots from bringing their own cameras along.
We almost all had cameras over there. Most of them were 35mm, but whenever Super 8 cameras came into the PXs in Vietnam, we'd usually pick them up and try and shoot what footage we could just to save the memories.
Helicopters were armed to protect troops during transport. Here, Vic Brimmer manages to film combat footage with one hand and lay down suppressive fire with the other hand.
The gunships themselves had guns that were mounted to the front. These were mounted to the side. This is the back seat of a Slick. I just happened to be flying with the 8mm camera in my left hand and doing the suppressive fires with the right hand with our gun.
As the use of Huey gunships expanded, they added more armaments, including machine guns on each side, rocket pods, and possibly a minigun or grenade launcher.
Our door gunners used the M60 machine gun, which was a 7.62 round, real similar to the 30-06. So there was some real good range and some good punch to it. And our door gunners really got good at using those M60s. They could target in on something and hold it right on a spot.
Sometimes the gunners got creative in mounting their weapons.
You can see this gunner with a machine gun that's held by a bungee cord, and he's just spraying down the air. They loved these bungee cords because they allowed the freedom to swing that gun anywhere they wanted.
Primitive compared to the telescopic imaging and FLIR of today's helicopters. The Huey did have a reticle sight for the pilot.
The sight was located above, and it just clipped down and came in front of the pilot. However, most of our gunship pilots over there were so good at what they did that they'd just take the grease pencil and mark an X on the windscreen, and that's where they shot. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the barrels of the M60 machine gun, and they were fixed and mounted on the side. They were not very flexible, so the pilot basically flew the machine guns that were mounted on the aircraft. He used his X on the windshield and the tracer rounds and just put the aircraft in an attitude that would rake the ground with those 4 M60 machine guns.
Rockets on the Hueys were unguided, so the pilot had to aim them with the reticle or the X just like the guns. They had high explosive warheads, but the gunship could only carry a limited number of them.
The rockets came straight out in front of you, so there was no need for it to move at all. You had several alternatives how you could fire them. You could fire one at a time. You could salvo the whole bunch at the same time if you wanted to. In this case, the pilot's walking the rockets into an area, again, for suppressive fire. We don't know exactly where the bad guy is, but you can see machine gun fire going out and then the rockets flying in front of that.
Sometimes the gunships would troll for fire, attempting to draw out the enemy from the cover of the jungle canopy. Some targets were attacked repeatedly as they were often reoccupied by the Viet Cong or North Vietnamese Army.
At this point, we're firing from only about 500 feet above the ground, and the distance in front of us was a quarter to half a mile. So you could easily see what you were shooting at. In this shot, we're kind of firing at some of the bomb craters that could be bunkers out there in front of us. In the southern part of Vietnam, the whole area was covered with craters. I don't think anybody could even begin to guess how many bombs were dropped over there, because the entire southern half, from probably 50 miles north of Saigon for the next 200 miles south, looked like that.
Touching down was the most dangerous part of an air assault.
While you're actually on the ground is a good time for a B-40 rocket to be fired at you, because it wasn't a weapon that could really track the aircraft. It took time to put it on your shoulder, to paint the aircraft or wherever you wanted to shoot it, and then you pulled the trigger and hope. And so we had a lot of rockets fired at us, very few actually hit.
Out of a total of 4,869 U.S. helicopters lost in Vietnam, over 2,500 were Hueys. Less than half of those losses occurred in combat, however. As a testament to its durability, the UH-1 is still part of the U.S. helicopter arsenal. And even more important, we are still looking at unofficial Vietnam gun camera footage to understand yesterday's battles and apply them to today's war. Coming up, a bombing run over Germany gets intense when German fighters challenge Allied air superiority. A detailed frame-by-frame analysis of just 11 frames of this footage reveals some amazing insights into aerial combat. These scenes are from one of the most famous war documentaries ever made. Following a B-17 bombing crew from their base in England, Academy Award-winning director William Wyler assembles footage from several bombing runs into one single representative flight of a flying fortress known as the Memphis Belle. This footage has been edited and re-edited into many documentaries, but until now, no one has done a frame-by-frame analysis of the aerial attacks which make up just 2 minutes and 30 seconds of this 40-minute documentary. The date is May 19th, 1943. Incredibly, the director himself accompanies the crew on their 25th and last mission. 3 cameramen film on board other planes in the formation. The plan for the day? Along with 1,000 other planes, they will attack the submarine pens in Wilhelmshaven, Germany. The first leg of the mission takes the B-17s up to their cruising altitude. We asked navigator Ben Starr to join Doug Keeney and comment on this bombing run.
We used to fly between 18,000 feet and like 22,000. And you would have your 3 squads would fly at different levels. And everybody juggled those. But on a clear day, the Germans knew it was one of 3. And if they picked the middle one, they were usually right, you know.
At these altitudes, the engine's exhaust begins to condense into white plumes behind the plane, called contrails.
This footage is something you don't want to see. You don't want to see contrails. If you're a bomber formation today, back in World War II, no matter who you are, you hate contrails.
Absolutely.
You see that white contrail coming behind these aircraft. All it says to the Germans is,
Here they come.
here we are.
Right on schedule, the enemy begins to pepper the formation with flak. Traveling into Germany, the flak gets more intense, almost a curtain of exploding shrapnel.
There's a wall of flak. Nothing you want to see as a pilot in World War II.
Anxious to get a better picture of the flak, director William Wyler asks if the pilot can fly closer to the exploding 88mm shells. He less than politely refuses. When the bombardiers zero in on their targets, it is time to unload. The The aerial gun camera makes a damage assessment as bombs hit throughout this German industrial area. Tall plumes of smoke from secondary explosions suggest that munitions or gasoline tanks have been hit. After the B-17s drop their bombs, the German Luftwaffe swarm in. The first attack comes from above. A German fighter approaches the B-17 and opens fire. The top turret gunner sends a hail of bullets in return. A freeze-frame analysis of this fighter reveals a silhouette match with the Me-109. After a close pass, the Me-109 veers off. Look again. The entire encounter lasts 2.5 seconds, and the fighter veers off only a split second before a collision.
Watch him, Scotty. I got my sights on him.
And now a new menace coming in. The camera records exactly what the gunner is seeing. That small speck in the distance is a German fighter approaching at 400 miles per hour. The bright flash indicates that he is firing at you, 2,300 rounds a minute. The waist gunner begins to fire. Tracers show that he is right on target. The front profile suggests that this plane is a Focke-Wulf 190. Again, the plane veers off, as you can see in this shot, just past the propellers. Then, behind the plane, gunners spot 4 more fighters. After another barrage of bullets, just 2 of the fighters continue their attack.
You can watch the dogfight if you're still in one piece, but everything is happening at once. Is your plane hit? Are you going down? Is somebody hurt? It just, what the hell was that? Where did they come from?
Slowing down this short clip, we can see flashes as the B-17 gunner makes direct hits on the Me-109. Next, hand-holding the camera in the B-17, Weiler records this amazing image. First, we see 2 German fighters hunting for a victim. Though distant, their silhouette matches an FW-190. Then into the center of the frame fly 6 B-17s in a relatively tight formation. Right behind them here, a lone B-17 trying to form up with the others. The 2 marauding German fighters jink past the concentrated firepower of these 6 and zero in on the straggling lone B-17. Notice also 2 B-17s near the bottom of the frame. Why aren't the Germans going after these 2? The fighters see what we don't. These 2 are not alone. In just a few frames near the end, we find 2 additional B-17s. Why challenge the firepower of these 4 planes when the straggling B-17 is an easy target? Here is the clip played again in real time. Next, we see 2 German fighters moving into attack formation to take on the camera plane. They are met with the sting of the B-17's 50 caliber guns. Check out the hits on the lead plane. The large flash suggests that this is an incoming incendiary round. This trailing smoke is concrete evidence that the lead plane took direct fire. In this clip, a solo fighter vectors in for a kill. In the confusion of battle, he has ignored cardinal rule number 1. He is attacking alone, and it will cost him. He flies right into the gunner's line of fire, taking 4 hits to his fuselage. Then, as the German fighter veers off to avoid more damage, it allows us to identify this silhouette as a Focke-Wulf 190. The hectic pace of battle is demonstrated in this clip. Look at it again in real time. The attack lasts a mere 4.5 seconds and may have cost the German pilot his life. With the Focke-Wulf repelled, the Messerschmitts renew their attack. These 12 jumbled frames seen at regular speed give us only a sense of chaos. But they leave us wondering exactly what happened in this blur. In a frame-by-frame analysis of these 2 seconds, we see something extraordinary. First, the leading plane takes at least one hit from the B-17's guns. Then we see the clear silhouette of an Me-109 narrowly missing the B-17. Then behind, another Me-109. Look at it again, frame by frame. 2 German fighters crisscrossing within 50 feet of each other as they hurtle towards the B-17. This coordinated attack barely missed ending in multiple disasters. In these 12 frames, just 1/2 a second, Weiler captures a deadly ballet, the true picture of the air combat experience, where life and death hang in the balance, and the battle can turn in a split second. In the next 11 frames, a blurred image moves through the scene. Could it be another plane? Watch again, 1 frame at a time. We see first the leading edge of a wing, then a motor, and here a second motor, and on the wing, a blurry image. Could it be a German cross? The next frame clarifies the wing marking. It is a star. That ends the mystery. It is another B-17 in the formation. But what's this? Not a prop. The 2 prop washes are seen just below the wing. No, it is an Me-109, slicing through the bomber formation, missing the plane by just a few feet. Clearly, this is what the cameraman was trying to capture from his position in the nose of the B-17. He follows this attacking German fighter as it plows through the tight bomber formation. Ironically, the Hollywood editors who tried to piece this sequence together didn't notice what the cameras had captured because it took place too fast. Back in the battle, the B-17 guns fire in defense. Not soon enough. The human cost of these attacks is clear. A B-17 is slipping out of the formation, losing control. She's going down.
Whenever another bomber is shot, the crew's got one thought, and that is, how many shoots do I see? How many shoots can I see coming out of that crippled B-17 or B-24?
Well,
you count them.
When a bomber is hit, it's so damn big and it's so heavy that when part of it breaks, it's going down.
There's a crew of 10 men flying the B-17. The first man exits out of the bomb bay doors here. In short order, another man escapes. A third man appears to exit from the tail, but it takes a longer time to sight their parachutes. In this handheld shot, only 2 parachutes are seen. The B-17 continues to plummet out of control. Finally, 2 more parachutes are seen. At least 5 have gotten out. No more parachutes were seen. 5 airmen are presumed to go down with the ship. And this B-17 is carrying one of Weiler's cameramen. But there is no time to mourn. German fighters renew their attack. The Memphis Belle guns open fire, and this time score a kill. It's the Germans' turn to punch out and dangle on a parachute. Again at just 1/3 speed. After a few hits, the German pilot punches out. After their return, the Memphis Belle and her crew leave the European theater with 25 successful missions. It's time to go home. From dogfights to helicopter attacks and bombing runs, the gun camera faithfully records the struggle for air superiority of heroes and courage in a way that words cannot express. A testament to the men who triumphed in battle 20,000 feet in the air.